When the topic of crime cinema comes up in conversation, it is easy to think of many popular classics from the past. Films like The Godfather, Scarface, Goodfellas, Heat, and Chinatown tend to dominate the talk around the water cooler as being the true cream of the crop. What about the unsung heroes of the genre though? What down and dirty films have been unfairly pushed to the side, seemingly forgotten as time has passed in recent years? Here are 10 films that all contain some of the most despicable characters ever put to screen. All 10 truly deserve your attention. That is, if you have not already seen them. In Bruges, when a job goes wrong, hitman Ray, Colin Farrell, and Ken, Brendan Gleeson, are sent to a hideaway in Bruges to lay low until things blow over. While there, Ken feels like a kid in a candy store, taking in all the facts and old history with great gusto. Whereas Ray could not be less ecstatic about all of the quaint charms that the titular getaway has to offer. The best part of the film is definitely the charming banter back and forth between Ray and Ken. Director Martin McDonagh keeps the characters constantly snarky and miserable. The script is smart and snappy. McDonagh makes these contract killers as inherently charismatic as he possibly can. We completely understand their motivations and why they do what they do. If you enjoyed In Bruges, McDonagh's follow-up 7 Psychopaths is a solid second film that does not disappoint. His upcoming third film 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri, starring Frances McDormand, is going to be released later this year. Based off its first Red Band trailer, the film looks quite promising. Running Scared, when a bunch of dirty cops get killed in a gunfight gone south, low-level criminal Joey, the late Paul Walker, is tasked with getting rid of a snub-nosed 38. He needs to level the situation out as fast as possible, so he stashes it in his basement. The gun in question is quickly stolen by his son's best friend Oleg. Both Oleg and the gun disappear deep into the night. This sends Joey on a trippy nightmare run through utter hell to get them both back in one piece. Not only is Running Scared Walker's best film, but it is easily the best performance of his career. Director Wayne Kramer injects this perverse world with an incredibly inspired Grimm's fairy tale aesthetic. Not to be forgotten, of course, is Walker's on-screen wife, a pre-Bates Motel Vera Farmiga. She truly gets some of the best scenes in the whole crazy affair. Do not miss this one. True Romance. True Romance is a film that seems to have been sort of lost over time. It has all the elements of a great story. Clarence, Christian Slater, is a charming comic book enthusiast and utter Elvis devotee. Alabama, Patricia Arquette, is simply adorable as a call girl that just wants out of her current lifestyle. She is managed by her pimp played by a completely unrecognizable Gary Oldman. True Romance has all the hallmarks of a Tarantino script, but it never feels tired or predictable. The story takes many different twists and turns throughout its narrative to keep the viewers guessing as to what happens next. If you were not necessarily a fan of those stylistic flourishes, however, then True Romance may feel like the refreshing change of pace you were looking for. Make sure to keep your eyes open for a blink and you will miss it cameo from a pitch-perfect stoner, Brad Pitt. The Place Beyond the Pines. It is a film told in a triptych format. Luke Glanton, Gosling, is a heavily tattooed motorcycle stunt rider with no real human connection to call his own. He goes from town to town as part of a traveling show. He mostly keeps to himself and never stays rooted in any one place for too long. That is until old flame Romina, Eva Mendes, comes to visit him one night. She reveals to Luke that he is the father of her child. Being given a newfound purpose in life by wanting to provide for his infant son, Luke begins to rob banks on his motorcycle with the help of Robin, great Ben Mendelsohn. Part of what makes this film so solid all around is just how real these characters truly feel. Killing Them Softly. When Marky Tratman, Ray Liotta, tries to rip off his own card game, Frankie, Scoot McNairy, and Russell, Ben Mendelsohn, try to copy his tactic to get a big score. Now of course neither Frankie nor Russell are professional criminals, so those higher up on the totem pole want to wipe them off the board for good. Enter Jackie Coogan, Brad Pitt, a charismatic enforcer sent to clean up their sloppy mess. The cinematography alone is enough to warrant a watch. The film is populated by all sorts of unlikable characters, so the rough and grimy visual approach perfectly encapsulates the sins in every character's heart. Plus you can never go wrong with Richard Jenkins showing up in a supporting role. Shoot 'em up. It is entirely unashamed of what it is, and all the better for it. Clive Owen constantly chomps down on a carrot while quoting Bugs Bunny. Paul Giamatti plays an incredibly creepy businessman with disturbing amounts of aplomb. He spends most of his days trying to kill several pregnant women, all the while trying to deal with the domestic problems that he has with his wife over the phone. Monica Bellucci plays a lactating prostitute known as Donna Dairy Queen Quintano. Those are the three main characters in the story, which is essentially all you need to know. The film is cartoonish in both its violence and action scenes. If all of that sounds like something you would enjoy, then Shoot 'em Up will certainly be the movie for you. Punisher, Warzone. This film had the grave misfortune of being released on December 5, 2008, just in time for the holiday season. It pretty well bombed at the box office. Director Lexi Alexander delivers a film that is not only hyper-violent to the core, but it stays incredibly true to its comic roots. Ray Stevenson showcases a dark and brooding Frank Castle that will stop at nothing to wage a one-man war against the mob. Dominic West gleefully chews the scenery here as Jigsaw. Warzone wastes absolutely no time being bogged down in a tired and overdone origin story. You are immediately dropped into the seedy underworld from the opening scene. The Punisher spins upside down from a hanging chandelier, as he shoots up an entire room of gangsters. If that is what you want out of your Punisher, then you will certainly dig this flick. Hobo with a Shotgun. Hopetown is run in fear by the Drake, Brian Downey, a loathsome gangster. All the hobo wants to do is make $50, so he can buy a lawnmower to start his own business. But when the crime in town becomes even too much for him to stomach, the hobo changes tack and buys the titular shotgun instead. What follows is a very gleeful spiral of appropriately over-the-top violence and gore. Hauer commits to a performance that legitimizes the absurdity of the film's graphic proceedings. An actor of his caliber only makes the film that much more entertaining, ripping apart all of these bad guys. Not at all a film for the faint of heart. Pride and Glory. It was released on October 24, 2008, the New York-based story of cops on both sides of the law. If anything, this film makes you feel dirty and uncomfortable just by being around it. The audience experiences its utter authenticity in showing the uglier side of the city that never sleeps. You may not want to wear your I Love New York shirt after watching this. Ray Tierney, Edward Norton, becomes deeply embroiled in a police scandal involving his heavily troubled brother-in-law Jimmy, Colin Farrell. We see this world of blue and dirty uniforms for the most part through Ray's eyes.
What are you gonna do, Ray? You gonna burn down your own house? Blow up everything you work for?
End of watch. David Ayer gave us a smaller story of two cops, Brian, Jake Gyllenhaal, and Michael Pena, trying to battle the Los Angeles crime scene. Ayer wisely puts the audience in the car with Brian and Mike to understand their daily life on the beat. Hands down the best part of the film is the chemistry between Gyllenhaal and Pena. You really believe them as partners and can totally see why they would have each other's back throughout the film's entirety. We get an extremely intimate view of what these guys go through just to get home to their respective wives at the end of the day.